a good chance that you're probably, for most of these kinds of career paths, you're going to want to pursue grad school somewhere in the next 5 to 10 years. In many cases, it's probably going to be best for you to wait a couple of years after your undergraduate experience before you want to go to graduate school. Not always the case, but it's often a good idea, in part because you get a better sense of what you want to do, in part because you'll probably be more competitive in the application process. I think to say is there are a few different kinds of graduate schools and different reasons for going to them. The first kind are academic graduate schools, and these are master's programs and PhD programs. And what they do is they train you to do research. Now, some important things about that. First of all, a PhD generally should not cost you anything. If they're not funding you, it's a signal that they don't really want you. But generally, if you're pursuing a research-oriented PhD, it's not going to cost anything. So don't let that be the reason you don't do it. If you want to do this, you should talk to faculty. You should be talking to faculty no later than September of the year in which you want to apply, because deadlines are generally a little bit further on in the fall, and you want to be make sure you're where you need to be and you're selecting the right schools. Good fit is really what determines applications as much as credentials. If what you want to do is not something that they don't have any faculty who do that, they're not going to accept you. So that's something to start early. Next, policy schools. These are essentially kind of the equivalent of like an MBA, and except that they train you to be a policymaker or a policy expert in some sense. There are lots of great ones. It matters where you go. Go to the best one you can. The best ones are places like SAIS at Johns Hopkins, Georgetown, Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, places like this. And let me say too that students from here have gone to these places. Just today, a student told me that he is going to be headed to the Elliott School in the fall. I have another student from last year who's at NYU. So there's some really great programs out there, and these are within your reach. But they're really, they tend to be much more practically oriented than a research PhD program. And so for a lot of you, this may be the sort of program you want to look towards at some point. And then last, law school. My advice for law school is only do it if you actually wish to be a lawyer and practice law. You don't want to practice law, this is $200,000 and 3 years of your life that you didn't need to spend. And there are probably better options for you, like policy school sort of programs. So you want to make sure that you're going to the right kind of place. And the way to find out if you're going to the right kind of place is to go and talk to your faculty. Ideally, in the beginning of your no later than the beginning of your senior year. Something else you want to think about: recommendation letters. One, not least of the reasons why you should work hard in your classes and get to know your faculty is so that they can write you a strong recommendation letter. Sometimes I have people come up to me and they got to be in my class and they never said a word, and I'm still not actually sure who they were. And it's very hard to write a recommendation letter for someone. And they count a great deal. If you think it's going to be a couple years before you apply for graduate school, still talk to your faculty while you're here now. Maybe even ask them to write a recommendation letter for you now, so they have it in their file. So it's not a matter of trying to remember who you were 4 years down the line, as I was actually doing this morning for someone. It's harder. And you don't want hard when someone's writing a recommendation letter for you. Thanks all for coming. This is the end of the formal part of the workshop. I've asked